What's up everyone, I'm here in the Netherlands. Today I'll teach you how to ride seated on the foil. Today we'll be looking at riding seated on a foil. I love this because you can't really get that same feeling on any other board. If you want to skip to one part or the other, we'll be looking at preparing to sit down, actually sitting down on the foil and how to do it, controlling the foil, and that also means crashing controlled, and last but not least, standing back up. For if you're advanced, why not? So the time codes are down there if you want to skip to one or the other. For now, let's start with preparing to sit down. There's a couple of ways in which we can prepare for riding seated. One of them is crouching down and touching the front of your board with your front hand. This is also the movement we're going to be using later on to sit down. If you got that dialed and you can touch the board, stand back up, touch the board, stand back up, you can start riding for longer periods whilst being crouched. This will help a lot with controlling the board or getting the control while riding crouched, and that will help immensely once you start sitting down, because if your entry is controlled, you have more chances of actually sitting down correctly. So without further ado, let's go over to sitting down. Ride in with decent speed, kite at 11 and edge towards the wind to get tension in your lines. Bend your knees and reach with the front hand towards the board. Press down on your front hand and sit down on the board. Control the board with your butt, upper body and pressure in the kite. Constantly make adjustments to maintain the right height, speed and direction. So when riding seated, control is a major part. Obviously you now have to steer with your butt, which is slightly different than with your feet. But the principles are the same. You are going to be steering with your body weight. If that is the front of my board and I shift my weight forward and put pressure on my right cheek, then my board is going to dive. If I shift my weight backwards on my left cheek, the board is going to rise. And then in the same way, if I shift my weight forwards onto my knees, you're going to tilt from side to side. So like that, you can actually steer the board very well. It's just up to practicing that sitting down a lot to get the full control. So that actually brings us to the common mistakes and some tips. That front hand plays a major role for me in controlling the board. First of all, I control how the board goes up or down. And then second of all, I always place it in the same spot so I know where to sit down. If I just shot out of the water, which happens a lot when you sit too far back on the board, then I know next time I need to sit a bit closer to my hand. If your board starts diving as soon as you sit down, you know you need to shift your weight further forward. Next thing is crashing. Obviously, crashing on a foil can sometimes be tricky, especially if you don't have control. But what I've really found is try to always hold on to your board. So if you're sitting and your board starts diving all of a sudden, try to hold on to it so the board really dives down into the water. If the board shoots out of the water, don't just let it fly away, but rather hold on to it for a little bit longer. If you've been flying for longer periods of time while seated, you might want to learn how to slow down controlled. So the best way for this is to actually steer the board into the wind and like that slowly touch down on the water. Like this, not much can go wrong and you'll come down to a very controlled stop. One last tip, if you're flying, don't try to sit exactly in the middle of the board, because what happens then is you can fall both ways. If you always lean back just a little bit, like on a upwind course or a crosswind course, you'll always have the tendency to fall back if something happens. And that's very easy to control with how much you pull on the bar. So that bar actually gives you a lot of stability. So really, don't try to stabilize exactly on the middle. Always make sure you're slightly angled, so if you fall, you would always fall on the upwind side of the board. So after practicing all this, and when you have it dialed, you might want to stand back up. Looks cool, right? So let's have a look at how to steer the kite first, and then we're going to have a look at the feet later. Ride in with decent speed, steer your kite up to 1230 and edge towards the wind to get tension in your lines. Pull your bar down as you try to stand up and steer your kite back in the riding direction. So with the use of the kite you can actually pull yourself back up a little bit, which helps a lot. But now let's look where to place the feet in order to stand up nicely. Ride in with the foil fairly high out of the water. Pull up your back leg and put it on the board. Press down the nose with your hand as you put your foot on the board, control the board and shift your feet if needed. When standing back up, your hand positioning and your hand pressure is key to how it's going to go. You can imagine that you're actually leaning on one hand and one foot. So you have to balance your weight between there to make the foil fly straight, or even let the foil go down a little bit, because if you push the foil down, it's easier for your body to stand up. It can be slightly tricky to place your feet in the right position on the board, but this is something you're going to have to play with, and in time it will become easier. And last but not least, that kite plays a major role. Use it, because it's a very easy way to pull yourself up on that board. Place it fairly high in the wind window and definitely make sure you don't have it too low. If you're always losing speed and after standing up have no more speed at all, you should probably keep your kite a little bit lower, or at least on the riding side or the riding direction side of 12 o'clock. And that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I learned this trick fairly early and it's beautiful to practice with and to play with. Plus, nothing beats the feeling of sitting down, dragging a hand through the water and just cruising along. If you enjoyed it, give me a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.